That's what Mary Ann said.
Okay. Ready to go. It is 6 o'clock this evening, May the 10th, Tuesday, and I call to order the regular board meeting of the Wenatchee School District Board of Directors. And first of all, I ask us to say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I welcome everyone to this board meeting and thank you for joining us. Doy a todos una bienvenida a esta reunión de la mesa directiva del Distrito Escolar. Gracias por su asistencia. The meeting is conducted in English, but we do have translation services so that citizen comment may be spoken in Spanish and be repeated in English. Si alguien quiere hacer su comentario de ciudadano o recibir explicaciones en español, por favor indique su necesidad. Tenemos disponible un servicio de traducción. The first item on the agenda is the consent agenda. And I do have a request to remove one item, item E, the principals and directors collective CBA bargaining agreement. So that will not be part of the consent agenda. Are there any other requests to modify the consent agenda? That being the case, it includes the minutes of the 21st of April meeting, special meeting, the 26th of April regular meeting, vouchers and payroll, the personnel report, contracts, and field trips. Is there a motion to propose approval of the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Laura. So we have a proposal and a second to approve the consent agenda as amended. Is there any discussion? That being the case, could all those in favor indicate that by saying aye? Aye. So the consent agenda is approved by everybody. The next item is citizens' comment. And unless some people have checked in very recently, I believe we have none. Is that correct? Okay. The next item after citizen comment is an action item, the contract with the North Central Education Service District for interim superintendent services. The contract for the interim superintendent services is in the board package so that everybody can read it. I believe it is true to what was signaled when the committee was authorized to negotiate it. By way of introduction, there are two priorities for the proposed actions to find successors to Superintendent Gordon. First and foremost, to complete implementation of the district's existing 12-month plan and programs, a pathway that's been approved by the board and in which I have confidence. That's the short-term priority. Secondly, to achieve the strongest, most widely open and deepest candidate search for the highest quality superintendent, the long-term top priority. In the contract, you will see in section 3, 10 priorities that the district defined for superintendent effort during 2022-23. In section 5, enhanced board oversight of progress towards achieving the district's goals. A smooth handover from Superintendent Gordon to the interim superintendent is essential. Section 1 provides transition time between now and June the 30th to achieve this and to build effective connections all around to all parties in the district. In section 10, the NCESD provides a backup alternative if we suffer the misfortune of the interim superintendent becoming unable to continue. To clarify, this is a dedicated person who will be full-time inside the district. The NCSD was uniquely positioned to serve the first priority of next 12 months, doing what we're out to do and committed to do. Do so within the short time frame that we faced, and then create a highly favorable foundation from which to work on the second long-term priority, the superb candidate that we hope to get for the long-term future. And they add local NCW knowledge and sensitivity to the process, and they do so with high-quality personnel. So that's background and content on the contract, which is in the board packet. At that point, I would ask if there was a proposal to approve the contract.
I move for approval of the contract with the ESD, North Central ESD, for the interim superintendent services for the next school year.
Thank you, Laura. Is there a motion to a second for that motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, Julie. I now open this up for board discussion.
I think the only question I had that jumped out at me is in the termination section. It discussed termination by the board, which could be for any or no reason, but would result in paying out the remainder of the contract. My understanding was that if the particular interim superintendent that was assigned maybe isn't working, we could still continue to contract with NCESD and would potentially just have a new superintendent appointed. And so there may need to be another sub point in there that, yes, termination of the relationship in and of itself would incur that penalty, but if there's a means for substitution of the person, then that wouldn't necessarily be a triggering termination of the contract.
The contract, one of the journeys that we went through was realizing we're not writing an employment contract, we were writing a contracted services contract. And I'm trying to absorb what you're saying there. I believe we have a good relationship with the NCESD and they would be performing their services for the 12 months. If the person was unable to continue, the NCSD would be able to offer a substitute, which we could accept or not accept. That's the other aspect of the termination. And I'm trying to think of a scenario. This is without sufficient cause. I think the answer would be if we had sufficient cause, then we would deal with the cause in that sense. So that I would interpret, this has been reviewed by our legal counsel. We could ask for a subsequent review. I don't really want to delay this from the point of view of a commitment in principle.
Yeah, and I agree. I don't want to delay it either. I just want to make sure I was understanding that because I completely agree. If we were to be terminating the relationship with NCESD entirely, then for no good reason, then yes, of course we owe a fee. The way this is written is if we terminate that interim superintendent for
Well, we
no
wouldn't be able
cause.
to do that. We would have to terminate the relationship with the contractor. We could go to the contractor and say, we are dissatisfied and we can work together. Does the contractor wish to say?
Would you grab the microphone?
Yeah,
Not-
I was just gonna
yeah.
say that.
Yeah.
If you look at item B, right below that, it specifically says, if they're unable to fulfill the interim duties, then they would assign it.
Right, but it says because of retirement, death, or disability. It doesn't necessarily say because the board didn't approve the service being provided by that one individual. So I think we're there. We knew what we were talking about. It's just when I read it there, I thought we had that option if it wasn't working.
You
out.
bet. The intention is that if the person that is hired, that is assigned to the job isn't a fit or it's not working, that we would have another person be able to fulfill that role. And if for any reason you didn't want that, that would be the termination agreement of the entire contract. But we do have a backup in case, or several actually, if for any reason the person assigned is unable to fulfill the duties.
Thank you, Michelle. I would want to add that this is very much a help each other goodwill kind of contract with one of our traditional service providers. And I have a great deal of confidence that if we run into uncertainties or things that we didn't expect, that we will almost always get a satisfactory resolution. And I didn't want, you've said that, and I think I would be confident with that. Yeah.
That's all I have. It looks consistent with what we discussed, so I'm fine.
I do have a couple questions. The out of work contract on the second page, 1E. I was looking at these dates that the interim is expected to be at leadership events at the ESD. August 25th was of a concern to me because that is our PD day on this calendar. And that is the day after Principal's Day. I think it's going to be important for the interim to be visible, especially as staff return into the buildings. So that date is a concern of mine.
Okay.
I agree that there were some potential conflicts that we discussed. And I think the idea is that if a particular date, like you just mentioned, ends up being a priority for the district, that would take precedence over whatever the ESD obligation was. So we did discuss that. And it says in here that something about approval by the board, permission of the board or something.
Yeah.
Something of that nature.
It does say prior permission. It does say expected.
Yeah, the expected was what threw me
Yeah,
off.
and it fits into working out mutual benefit, which is another way of looking at that. Yeah.
So I would like to see this day. I mean, maybe not in this contract, but like I said, the visibility, we need to have staff, buy in, having that visibility in our buildings as staff return, have those PD days is, I think it's going to be crucial.
I agree.
The other question I have is on number 5. In regards to the evaluation, it says 2023-24 annual goals for the Wenatchee School District shall be established jointly by the board and the interim superintendent prior to the 22-23 school year. I'm a little confused why we're going to be setting goals for the incoming superintendent.
Yeah, I can explain that. Every year we're on an annual cycle of goals, and they're set in February and March in the spring. If it's a continuing superintendent, those goals become the superintendent's evaluation. As we see that calendar, anytime there's a change of superintendent, whether it be by end of contract or any other reason, there's going to be this bridge where everybody has to team up and try and anticipate and look ahead. Try the exiting superintendent, if you call it that, will be writing goals with everybody else's input for the next 12 months. There'll be a new superintendent on July the 1st who will settle in at a varying pace, may be involved with the board. The board is the one that will bridge both dates. And so there will of necessity be working together and bridging that gap at that point. So it is the 23-24 goals. And it is because of the nature of the calendar of planning. Looks like Julie, you had a question. No. Okay, I thought you were saying okay. I cut you off. Okay.
I get it. I guess I'm just, I know they're district goals, and to have them set with an interim and us a whole year in advance, it just, with the new superintendent, it just kind of doesn't seem fitting.
Well, actually, the first quarter of those are completed before June the 30th. So the goal year is not the same as the school year.
So we started February.
I realize it's awkward. You go ahead.
It's similar to the situation we're in now. The board has already met with our existing superintendent and we have established goals, and we anticipate that our interim superintendent is going to follow up with those goals that we have created. I think that the board should probably not be completely closed-minded, to a conversation with our new permanent, superintendent. And, if there needs to be adjustments or tweaks, because of an emerging vision, then I think the board could probably be open to that. But we have to look forward. If we don't, then we're just going to be stalling and.
No, and I get it. It's just, you have an incoming superintendent and you have an interim setting those district goals. But no, I also get the idea of, moving the district forward. And I agree, we have to be open-minded. That new person might not agree with what we have in place. And then Lastly, okay, what are these indirect fees? I know overhead cost, I guess, is that kind of what we're looking at here?
You know, I kind of like to pick that up because I think it's not a bad idea to go over the whole, you know, what does the cost look like?
Yeah.
So if we just compare the salary, which is bear in mind, this is a contracted services. So the fixed number is the bottom line, the 330, okay. So if we compare salaries, this notional salary in terms of that we're paying the total is actually a little less than Wenatchee School District would have had with the increase at the 30th of June. It's less than what Eastmont just negotiated with their superintendent. So, but it's very much in the same costs structure. As far as the benefits are concerned, this contract locks into a fixed amount for benefits. So we have a fixed contract. If you actually have an employee, the benefits are actually arranged and they'll vary according to discretionary choices during the year of the employee. And in this particular case, the existing benefits, my guess would be of an employee superintendent would cost more than the contract we have from fixed amount from the NCSD. And what that pays for is vacation, healthcare, pension, payroll taxes, and things like that. So it is kind of nice to have a fixed sum and you know what it is. And then we don't have an employee who can elect different patterns. So the first two items on that list come in not materially, but somewhat lower than our standard cost. And then the 9% comes in, and I will give my version of it, and it can be repeated by other more knowledgeable people. The Educational Service District is a service provider to school districts all around the region. This is their standard contract form where they bill their clients, us the school districts, the direct cost of the employee services that they provide. And then they add 9% fee. And that pays for all the supporting overhead that keeps them in business. Everything from people to their facilities and technology and to things like insurance and other things like that. And that's the way they do business. This is a standard format of how they do it. When you add these items all together, given the fact that the school district is a bit of a range, they end up being essentially the same, and including the 9% from the NCESD. But I want to say that I think that's good. We know that this is a good economics. But I want to talk a little bit more about the unpriced benefits of working with the NCSD, which I think are very, very real in their contract. When the board authorized two of us to initiate searching for a superintendent with the NCSD for help, their networking knowledge within days gave us an idea of the probable availability of qualified people who would be immediately available within the next few weeks. If we'd had to go to a search firm, which would have been for a substantial fee, we would have had to wait, I believe, about a month before anybody even lifted anything to do it. So there's one immediate benefit that we've already received from the NCSD. And then I think it's important, the matter we discussed of assigning an alternate interim superintendent if we need to. So we have backup. It's not a single shot, no reserves, no alternative plan deal. So I think there are a lot of unpriced benefits as well in the cost. But I think the answer to my question for everybody on the cost is this is a good economic deal for the school district. When you pencil things out, it's very much similar to what we would be paying anyway, and it's got other unpriced benefits.
Yeah, I'll just echo your discussion of the indirect fees or what we'd see in like an engineering contract or anyone else
Very
we
much so.
contract with. It's their fully burdened costs to cover their administrative fees and things. So we see those in the 7 to 12% range. So this is pretty reasonable as far as I was concerned.
Okay. Any further discussion? I just want to go back because I left you hanging in the air on your question on termination. I think we can jointly see whether we missed anything, but I would like to go forward on the basis that we believe it is satisfactory and present it that way.
Call the question.
Okay, in that point, then I would ask for a vote on the interim services contract presented to us by the NCESD and posted in the board packet. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Thank you very much. That is, I think, a very good accomplishment that will do a great deal of good and provide a lot of very important power and help to the school district. So thank everybody. At this point, we move to presentations, and I would invite Michelle Price, Dr. Michelle Price, the superintendent of North Central Educational Service District, to give us her announcement.
Well, thank you. First, thank you for the faith in North Central ESD, and our goal and our drive is to serve you and to make sure that you're served well. So as a district, as a team, you have some incredible people here, and we hope to maintain that momentum. So I'd just like to say thank you. We have provided superintendent services before to Stehekin, Palisades, or Rondo, never to the level of size of Wenatchee School District. So it's something new, but we were really in a unique position with a rarity with 4 staff members with superintendent certification. And so I think that the faith you have in our agency and our commitment to you and having that breadth of experience with superintendent credentials is going to be a blessing while you're working towards finding a permanent replacement and working with your community and your staff here. So the primary reason we offered to provide this option to the Wenatchee School District is that it was late in the hiring season for a superintendent. The superintendent job seekers at this time have a lack of depth of experience with large districts. We can support the momentum on current Wenatchee School District initiatives without causing a domino effect, creating gaps in the team that is doing great work here in Wenatchee School District. We have familiarity with the district, the staff, the community, and the initiatives. We have a willing, qualified candidate that would not be interested in the position permanently. So I want to repeat that. This person I'm assigning is not interested in the position permanently. So you don't get to keep them no matter what. This allows the board to focus your time and your energy engaging the staff and the community in the search process for a permanent replacement for Paul Gordon. So tonight I'd like to announce that I'm assigning Bill Eagle to serve as the North Central ESD interim superintendent in the Wenatchee School District. Bill has 26 years of educational experience. He's demonstrated highly effective educational leadership and program management skills. He has experience working with all grade levels, K through 12, as well as state and federal programs. That's a very unique trait. Bill promotes a positive culture and is an excellent communicator. He also has proven skills in consensus building, which I think will be very beneficial in your interim time. He is currently the Associate Director of Student Success and Learning at North Central ESD. He has a bachelor's degree in mathematics, a master's in mathematics, both from Central Washington University, and he's both a principal and superintendent credentials from Washington State University. Bill has a long-term passion and commitment to the Wenatchee School District. As a matter of fact, he's one of your own. In Wenatchee, he was a teacher, an instructional coach, an assistant principal, a principal, and before I stole him, a director of state and federal programs. In 2018, I was blessed to be able to hire Bill as part of my team. As the Associate Director of Student Learning, he facilitates Marzano Instructional Framework training for principals and teachers, school improvement, principal mentoring, and field supervises for our Eastern Washington University Grow Our Own teaching program. At the end of the contract term, June 30, 2023, Bill will return to his position and his roles and responsibilities at North Central ESD when you're replacing a permanent person in that place. So again, thank you for the opportunity, and I'd entertain any questions that you have.
Thank you very much, Michelle. I see you offered to answer some questions, so open up for that.
Well, thank you very much. We are looking very forward to working with you, and hate to see Paul go, but what an incredible team. I walked in, I'm like, this is the power team over here, and I promise you that we're going to come alongside them and support your work. So thank you.
And I just want to thank you and everybody who's participated in this last month of work. I think we have the ability to move ahead together very well and appreciate it. Thank you, Michelle.
Thanks, Michelle. Martin and our executive team here.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, okay. The next presentation, Paul, you're going to introduce Shannon. Okay.
Tonight, we have Shannon Davidson with us from Education Northwest to give us our update on the progress of our equity program review. Shannon?
Great. Thank you, Paul, and thank you to the board, as always, for making time for our update. My teammate, Manuel Vasquez, is also here with me. Manuel, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, my name is Manuel Vasquez Cano, and I'm a researcher at Education Northwest, and I've been involved in the process of the equity review, from going to collect data and also doing some of the data analysis. So really happy and excited to be part of this work, and thank you for having us.
So if it's all right, I will go ahead and share some slides. And I definitely want to make room for discussion at the end. This has been a really rich and fascinating period of learning for us, both what we're starting to learn from our data collection and also what we're learning from community feedback. And so I want to make sure we do have time at the end to discuss some of that, because it's all been extremely valuable. And I think we're going to have some very important findings and synthesizing of this learning to report back to all of you. So as always, we just like to give an overview of the 5 focus areas that guide our equity program review. And those are curriculum policies, materials, and resources, discipline policies, materials, and resources, instructional policies and teaching practices, hiring and recruitment policies and practice, and access to learning opportunities. And these, just as a reminder, our 5 focus areas were really guided by the mission and the action steps in the strategic plan. So this is, what we hoped to come and learn about and be able to share back to the district to help guide those next steps of implementing the strategic plan. And I understand that's going to be the next topic on the agenda. So really looking forward to understanding how this will contribute to those next steps that you're taking as a district. And I think Manuel is going to give an overview of our timeline.
Yeah, so just to kind of review what the plan was in the different phases of our work. So for the first couple of months of the year, we spent on planning. So this was gearing up for the equity review, developing a fleshed out plan, as well as working with the equity working group to finalize some data collection protocols. From there, we conducted our data collection. So we had a week in Wenatchee talking with the community, collecting data from community members, as well as setting up data sharing agreements with the district. And right now we're in kind of the middle of this third phase. We are analyzing the data, making sense of it. And from there, we'll transition to reporting, putting together a report and presentation and sharing it back with the community.
And we've been very busy since our last update to you last month. We worked with our working group to gather input and feedback on our data collection instruments. And we actually had added an extra round of feedback with our working group, and felt that we had a good sense of the feedback and the direction that we were going to be able to finalize our last instruments. So we thank the working group very much for their time, and they're going to have a very important role coming up in helping us make meaning of our preliminary findings. So it's been great to engage with them from the beginning. We did visit Wenatchee from April 12 to 15. It coincided with some pretty crazy weather, but we were able to move forward with a lot of great data collection, including focus groups and a community engagement event on the evening of April 13th. And we have now begun analyzing our student level data that we are gathering from OSPI through our formal data sharing agreement with the district. And we have launched our surveys and actually have completed administering our surveys for students, families, and educators. We have been working with the Human Resources Department at the district to obtain data on staffing and applicants and hiring, which we are combining with our analysis of S275 data from the state, so that we'll be able to address some of our research questions around staffing and hiring. We've been continuing to monitor and respond to the digital suggestion box entries. And as we have begun analyzing our survey and interview and focus group data, we've been fielding a lot of calls and emails from the community to share feedback on surveys. And we have been listening to all of it with great interest. And I'm just really commend the community for taking those steps to reach out to us from whatever perspective that may be. We've heard a wide range of feedback, ranging from just delight and emphasizing the importance of this work to some family members who have some real concerns about the data collection and about the kind of general direction of the equity review. And so all of that has been valuable. And we are really trying to take a listening stance and a learning stance so that we can incorporate what we're learning into our analysis and our reporting. So this is just a little view of all the different types of data that we've collected so far. It's a huge range of different types of data that we're hoping to combine in our final report. So in terms of qualitative data, in combining the in-person groups and the virtual follow-ups, we will have 17 focus groups with between 5 and 8 students each, 3 family groups, 2 educator groups, plus interviews with administrators. We had a great turnout at our community event on April 13th, so we have notes from that. And then moving into our surveys, we've had very strong response rates for our surveys with 1,825 complete student surveys, 823 complete family member surveys, and 446 complete educator surveys. And that includes both English and Spanish for students and family members. We just closed those surveys today, so I'll be able to break down those response rates a little bit more with a little bit of time. Our secondary data, as I mentioned, we're looking at student level data from OSPI, as well as our HR data and our workforce data. And we've been busy reviewing documents from curricula shared with the learning and teaching team and a selection of ELA and social studies texts. So we have a lot of different data. We're really excited now to be in this phase where we are pulling the data together to tell what we hope will be a very comprehensive and interesting and nuanced story and narrative about what we're learning and share it back with all of you. So we are on track with our deliverables. We have just submitted our progress memo number 2, which was our deliverable for the end of April. And the next deliverables are big ones. First, we'll be sharing our final report outline with our working group, along with preliminary findings and engaging in some meaning making there. And by the end of June, we'll be ready to submit our final report and present it to you all at the board.
So this is just what's coming up for the next couple of months. So like Shannon said, we're in the very deep stage of data analysis. Personally in that phase as well, looking at a lot of rows and a lot of spreadsheets. So this is some of the exciting time. So we'll continue to do that. We are also at the same time drafting our report outline and adding in some preliminary findings so that we can share with our equity review working group during our next meeting. And so we'll get some feedback from the group to help us kind of make meaning of the data, and that'll just overall help us get a more nuanced picture and I think a better story from that. Once we get some feedback from the equity review working group, we'll take that feedback and use it to finalize our report. Once we're done with that, at the end of June, we'll plan to present to the school board and submit the final report and findings.
So now I would love to open this up for discussion, and I've included my email address again there, as well as the link to our digital suggestion box. So both board members and any members of the public who may be watching, we really do encourage you to continue reaching out. It's been really encouraging and invigorating to see this community's willingness to engage in this process, and we're here and we're listening, and we encourage you to keep doing so. And at this point, we'd be happy to answer any questions.
I wondered whether our members on the working group would have added insights that can teach us something.
I don't necessarily have any insights, but I do have a question for Shannon, because I think the board got an update email that said feedback was coming back through surveys and emails to Equity Northwest. And I'm just curious how that feedback that maybe isn't part of the survey is or can be incorporated in any of this.
Yes, thank you. That is a great question. And I have been taking notes during my conversations with permission from people that I'm speaking with, and letting them know that if they want us to consider, what they're telling us as qualitative data, then we will incorporate it into our the data that we're coding from our focus groups and our interviews, and take it into account. And if it's more general feedback on the process, then we will be sure to address it in our reporting in terms of acknowledging that, some parents have shared feedback that they felt they were unable to answer certain survey questions in the way that they would have liked to. So, we want to put that in the report and address that and acknowledge it. Every form of data collection has its potential sources of error, or that's why we use so many different kinds of data sources, because certain types have pros and cons and are better at doing certain things than others. So it's customary in a report to include things that that may have gone differently to result in a different type of data. So a few parents have shared that, and we've taken that down, and we'll include it in our report.
I just have a logistical question. I see that the last 2 dates on your timeline, May 31st and June 3rd, it doesn't say that you're reporting to the board on May 31st, but it does say so on June 30th, and I don't believe we have a meeting on the calendar.
It'll be on the 28th.
Okay, thank you. That was my question.
Yeah, we'll report out. Sorry, it'll be out on the 28th.
The 30th, I think, is when the end of our engagement is officially, but the 28th we'll be ready to present to you.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I thought one of the items we discussed at the outset of the contract was we were worried about the product, the quality of the product delivered in such a strict time frame. It sounds like we're on target regardless, but I thought we discussed maybe some flexibility because ultimately it's getting it done and getting it done well. So if it's not completely ready June 28th, do we see a sliding scale on that, or is it we're done June 28th?
No, we don't turn into pumpkins, and we want to make sure that you have something that you're happy with. We are taking that step at the end of this month to share those preliminary findings, in part to do a check and make sure that we are on the right track to producing a report that's going to meet your needs. But when we present it on the 28th, if there are additional suggestions or edits that you'd like to request that we make, we can discuss ways that we can, make changes to ensure that you're happy with the end product.
So are we going to receive the preliminary findings on the 31st? Because we don't have another meeting until the 14th. Are we going to receive those? Is the board receiving those by email?
Our plan was to share them with the working group, but I'm open to process amendments if it's something that board members might be interested in viewing.
So yeah, what we were thinking is that in that May 26th working group session, we'll start diving into the data, getting that Wenatchee perspective on the data. They would then go back to their teams, begin to finalize the final draft for the board, but we definitely have it to the board prior to that 28th. So you're not just seeing it firsthand on the 28th. Is that what you were asking, Laura?
Well, I was wondering, if we were going to see it on the 31st of May
Oh,
in time to give comment prior to the June 28th.
we can talk about that.
More time
I mean,
to digest would be preferable to me.
I think how the feedback from the working group first on the 26th, see what that does, kind of putting it back into the hands of Education Northwest and their timeline turnaround on that, and then bringing it back to the boards. So you can have plenty of time. I agree. Making
Okay.
sure you have a significant amount of time to digest it, understand it, ask questions about it. So we're ready for that 28th.
Okay.
That's what I hear you.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's very important because as a board member, I don't think we want to get one report dried ink too late to think about it. So I'm not quite sure how to do that. I mean, I think a workshop would be one way of doing it, but that's burdensome. Yeah. Okay, you're nodding your head. I'll leave it to you. I think the board needs to be able to look, think, look again.
Yeah, I think it'll be important for the working group to look at the report, maybe even before it's presented to the board. I think it's going to be valuable. It was a very good, what I felt was a very good connected working group. And so I think there's value added to have that presented to the working group and then to the board.
Yeah, I agree. It probably should go working group and then to the board for something like a workshop or something. So we can really get in and understand it, because her and I will have seen it before, but you all won't. And so, and it's completely unfair to, present it on the spot and say, you've got questions later, let us know. So I would support doing some second level of meeting as well.
I'll work with Education Northwest to set a time. And I like the idea around a draft workshop, so we can work through it and then that potential final presentation on the 28th.
I have a couple comments, questions. Thank you, Mary, for taking the community comment. Oh, Shannon, I've called you Mary a few times. Sorry, Shannon. So thank you for taking the community comments from emails or calls that you have received and incorporating them to the analysis. However, can we confirm that those are from family community members that are residing within the Wenatchee School District?
Because of the way we set up our data collection to be collecting as minimal personally identifiable information as possible, we want to protect privacy by not collecting names, not conducting a sort of a verification process. There is a certain amount of trust that we have to give to the community when we put data out here and collect it back. So most of the people that I've actually spoken with on the phone have been sharing, personal stories about their students and about their experiences. So it hasn't been brought to my attention that there is a concern about sort of outside of Wenatchee input until today. I spoke with that a little bit with Paul. I'd be curious to know if you have some insights on that you'd like to share that might help me address the question better.
Yeah. So it leads to my next question in regards to the survey responses. The student response was great. The family response would have liked to see it higher, but the educator response was also great. My questions regarding these two comments are because there is a social media group that it encompasses the area, not just Wenatchee. And there was a comment posted. I don't know how much detail I should put, but it's open. Anybody can go in and see it. And the links to all the surveys were put in the social media post. So how valid is the data that we're looking at, given that it went to a broad group of different community members? And I was extremely discouraged to see that. because it was a member from the working group. And so, you know, we've invested so much time and money into this, and how accurate is the data that we're going to receive and reflective of our true Wenatchee community?
So we brought that up to Shannon this afternoon in our weekly meeting, just that question. We did look at when that was posted to make sure Education Northwest is able to look at that and say, was there a burst of responses? So it's a piece that they're looking into. Shannon, did you have anything else you want to add to that question from Maria?
It is, it's just something that was brought to our attention today. So I'm going to be speaking with my team about what we can do in terms of kind of internal reliability and validity checks to minimize the impact of that on the integrity of the data. And again, as I mentioned, it's customary in such reports to acknowledge potential sources of data error. So it's something that now that we are aware of, we will certainly need to address in our reporting. And it's, I feel like it's unfortunate if the data were compromised. We are trying to keep in mind that this is for kids, this is for students, this is for being able to move the district forward in a productive way and have conversations that ultimately help Wenatchee students, which is really the shared goal that I have been hearing over and over again from the parents and family members that have been calling me. A lot of common ground in terms of just wanting the best for opportunities for Wenatchee students. So it's definitely something that we will take seriously, and I'll need to discuss with my team about ways that we can minimize the impact of the data, but we really appreciate you bringing that to our attention.
Yeah, and just for clarification, it wasn't a post that said, hey, come take the survey.
Yeah, that's, and I understand that it went out by a lot of different channels. So, when we put a survey out there and we want a lot of responses, there is a certain amount of trust that those responses are going to be true. But with any self-reported data, we always have to have that qualification that this is self-reported data. And that's why we combine it with different data sources so that we can be sure we're telling a comprehensive story that's not just based on one data source.
I think you've given us good explanation again. Appreciate that, Shannon and Manuel. As one of the three who's not on the working group, it's very valuable to learn a little bit more at these board meetings, and appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Manuel.
Thank you.
The next item is the presentation on the strategic plan.
Thank you, Martin. Board, thank you. We're excited to formally present the strategic plan to the board, to the community, along with the rebranding. So tonight, as we're putting up our presentation here, really walk the board through the work, some of the inner workings of our strategic plan. As the board knows the plan overall, but we felt like it was really important to take a moment, recognize the work that has happened, and most importantly, the work that's happening now and into the future. In front of you, as you're looking, like good students are already touching the material. So that was bad teaching on my part. That was all mine. That was my bad. You have a number of items in front of you. I'm going to borrow yours, Martin. First one is more of a high level review of our plan that is in both English and Spanish. It's absolutely beautiful. But it really tells our story from a high level. The next one is a much more technical, comprehensive strategic plan. This is the one the team uses. This is the one that our building leaders, teachers, and others use. It truly is a very technical plan, and we'll get into that portion of it. So it's our promise, plan, and this is about our brand. I'm not clicking, so. That was a dramatic pause. Dun, dun, dun. There's music supposed to come in there. As you all know, very well, board, we're made up of 7 elementary schools, 3 middle schools, a comprehensive high school, an alternative high school, 1 K-8 alternative parent partnership school that a lot of parents don't know about, but it's an amazing place. We are the host to the Regional Technical Skills Center, 1 online internet academy, WIA. Our students, 53% of our students are Latino Hispanic. 43% of our students are white. 4% come from other cultures and racial backgrounds. 55% of our students receive free and reduced lunch. And here's one that I don't think a lot of people know about us. Over 500 students experience homelessness within our school district. One of the things I tell people all the time, this is one of the most urban rural school districts I've ever seen in my life, because of all the different components that make up the Wenatchee School District. But that's who we are, from our buildings to our amazing young people who work with us. But we also have these incredible 1,100 exceptional educators, staff members, full and part-time certified and classified staff members who literally are making a difference in the lives of each of those students each and every day, of our roughly 7,600 students. Our promise, as you can see on the wall, the brand and the promise, we promise to build a foundation of diversity, equity, and inclusion from which each student emerges future ready. So part of this is to fulfill our promise. The work here is literally to fulfill that promise each and every day, to fulfill that promise. And again, our students come to us with all these unique lived experiences. That's what makes each one of our students so absolutely amazing. And our promise acknowledges those realities. And it's a strategic plan that provides a framework from which each of our students will emerge future ready. The cornerstones of this plan are our promise in the big 6 student outcomes, the academic and social emotional, along with the action steps to achieve those. This is the work that happens. This is really important. This is a 5-year plan. This is not something that we're getting done on day 1. It's a thoughtful 5-year plan that will take time and energy. And we'll talk to you about how we do that and how the board or how cabinet members monitor it. Each year, we're going to set goals and align our work plans to incrementally work toward delivering on our promise. Next up, Mike Lane, the Executive Director of Learning and Teaching, is going to talk to you about the Big 6, something we've talked a little bit about, but something that we really wanted to highlight here tonight. Mike?
Thank you. So as Paul mentioned, the Big 6 can be thought of as cornerstones to the strategic plan. I'd like to think of them also as vital signs that we could use to monitor the health of our PK-12 system. These are data sources, 6 data sources that will be publicly displayed on our website. And the data is intended to be easy to use, easy to get, and easy to view on the website. And the results would be indicative of larger system work, so that as a leadership team, we can dive into those results and much more detail to look at the health of our system across it. As you may have already ascertained, there are 6 of these areas, but the first 2 truly do set the stage for those that come after it. The first 2 truly are the heartbeat of the work that we do. So the first one is experiencing high quality instruction. Students are participating in and receiving grade level standard or beyond instruction and assignments. We relied on several research studies for this. The one that became kind of the guidance for this came from a research group called TNTP out of New York. And they published a very comprehensive research study on what is effective in schools. It was called the opportunity myth. And for part of that, they observed 1,000 high school lessons. So they're actually sitting in 1,000 different high school classes observing the lessons. And what they found was 88% of the time, the lessons and the assignments related to the topic of the class. And 71% of the time, the students met the demands of the assignment. but only 17% of the time did the students have demonstrate mastery of grade level standards. And the reason for that discrepancy is that only 17% of the time were the students asked to demonstrate grade level standards. So that underscores the importance of grade level and beyond instruction, as well as engagement. They go deeper into that research around classes for all students where on grade level instruction and high levels of student engagement are present. That is effective for all students, but it's particularly effective for students who have catch up to do. And we do know within our system, we have students who have catch up to do. So the second sort of foundational area that we'll talk about is really around belonging and connection, that students know they belong, they're seen, they're valued and heard, and have healthy relationships with staff and peers. This is about the human aspect of the work that we do. It's about creating school and district environments that are built on respect, inclusivity, compassion, and hope. However, there's also research proven links to academic success that go right along with this. The Mindset Scholars Network from Stanford University does a wonderful job of very succinctly describing the connection between belonging and academic performance. These are their words. When students are uncertain about whether they belong, they are desperately searching for clues about whether they belong or whether they don't belong. Am I safe in this environment? Am I not safe in this environment? Am I respected in this environment, or am I not respected in this environment? And that hypervigilance and added stress use up cognitive demand that's essential for learning. And the result is academic achievement is diminished, as is the student's ability to persevere in the face of adversity. The statement that's mounted on the wall right now, it starts with our promise is to build a foundation. If you look at number 1 and number 2 of the big 6, that's how we build the foundation. That's the work that we do. Number 3, reading on grade level. Students will read on grade level by 3rd grade and beyond, and will continue to grow their skills, knowledge, and abilities throughout their education. The importance of reading on grade level, and particularly that 3rd grade benchmark, really cannot be overstated. The amount of research that is backing this up is somewhat overwhelming. One of my favorites, because it gets right to the heart of this work, comes from the National Research Council, and they assert that academic success is defined by high school graduation can be predicted with reasonable accuracy by knowing someone's reading skill at 3rd grade. A person who is not at least a moderately skilled reader by that time is unlikely to graduate from high school. Let me read that again. A student who is not at least a modestly skilled reader at 3rd grade is unlikely to graduate from high school. Kofi Annan has a great quote, and it says, "Literacy is the bridge from misery to hope." And one of the things I love about that is you can take the word misery and you can replace a whole bunch of other things that we absolutely know are true as educators. Literacy is the bridge from poverty to hope. Literacy is the bridge from incarceration to hope. Our work about ensuring literacy is equity work. Number 4, ready for algebra. Students will be on grade level or beyond by 8th grade in algebra, the strands number and operations, and algebraic thinking. Like reading on grade level at 3rd grade, algebra represents a watershed moment in our students' future ready path. For many of our students, it'll be the first time that they struggle with variables or abstract concepts or creative problem solving. For many of our students, it'll also be the first time they'll find out what it feels like to fail a class, high school algebra being the most frequently failed class across the nation. The Gates Foundation is digging into this, and they describe a student failing Algebra 1 as having the door of opportunity closed in their face. The work that we need to do systemically is about shifting algebra from being a gatekeeper that limits students' access to their future to being a gateway that we show students the pathway towards their future. Mike Matos is one of the gurus in sort of the PLC work that we've been working on and sharing with the board. He has a great saying that says, if we can predict it, we can prevent it. If it's predictable, it's preventable. Can we predict that students will struggle in algebra? We absolutely can predict that. Can we do something about it? You're darn right we can. And the responsibility for doing that is shared across the system. That is not just about algebra teachers. Reading on grade level and arming students for success in algebra, that's how on a day-to-day basis in our classrooms, we take the words from the wall and turn it into daily action. Number 5, on track for graduation. Students are on track to graduate by the end of their freshman year and beyond. This is a pretty simple measure. Essentially, ninth grade students earn all attempted credits. Another way of saying that is ninth grade students don't fail any classes. Clearly, item number 4 and item number 5 are closely linked to one another. We're not going to hit the mark on number 5 unless we hit the mark on number 4. The research on ninth grade is also clear. University of Chicago, 1 F in a year-long course at ninth grade decreases the probability of eventually graduating by 30 percentage points. 2 Fs in ninth grade decrease the probability of graduating by over 50 percentage points. And number 6, this is about real world and relevant learning. Students are engaged in a continuum of learning experiences that create awareness, exploration, preparation, and work experience to be future ready. Our work is about ensuring our students are armed with the knowledge, skills, mindsets, and experiences for success in whatever their desired future is. It's about guaranteeing that each of our students are able to confidently follow a path that brings them to a sense of purpose and fulfillment and joy. Now my partner, Corey Callahar, is going to talk about how these manifest themselves in the form of priorities and action plans.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. I'm going to talk about our priorities tonight. And so as Mike described, the big 6 are how we're going to be measured on our strategic plan. And the priorities are how each student achieves and realizes the big 6. So through our priorities and the action steps and the practices and this group of people owning the process, that's how we're going to get to that piece with the priorities. So as the slide says, in the next 5 years, Wenatchee School District will focus on providing the opportunities and support for each student to achieve the big 6 and keep our promise to build that strong foundation. So the first slide actually helps us use the technical document. So if you want to get that out, you can turn to page 3, 4, and 5, and you can look at basically the magnitude of each of these priorities and how they're unpacked. There's a lot of stuff here for us to unpack, and the technical document does that for us. And as each of you know, the action steps have a district leadership perspective. It also has a school leadership perspective, and then it has a staff perspective as well. And so under each of those items, you can kind of follow along. So look at the next slide here, which talks about our first priority, and that's thriving environment. So these are the welcoming spaces where all individuals flourish, are seen and valued, feel safe, and know they belong. And so we have the action steps over here on the right side of the slide. The first one, supporting the social and emotional well-being of people with healthy and supportive spaces. So this is the first action step, is where a lot of the work that I've been involved with this year lives, housing our social emotional learning as well as our PBIS work. Students' belonging and connectedness, as Mike talked about with the big 6. Each and every day, we want all of our students in our system to feel like they're part of something special, and we want them to feel that in each of their buildings as well. So if we look under that on the technical documents, we can see that there are, under the district leadership piece, we have providing leaders with SEL, best practices. Under the school leadership practices, we have creating welcoming and inclusive spaces for all of our school community. And then under the staff practices, we have teaching, modeling, and practicing positive behaviors through planned social emotional learning. So you can kind of see how all of the action step, that first action step, kind of plays out. And there's many more, obviously, as well, but those are kind of highlights. We also have under the action steps, developing facilities and operations that reinforce equitable learning and opportunities. And then the final one for this priority, hiring staff that reflect our student body. All right, the next priority is partnerships. This is where our work together around PLCs lives, and the journey that we're on for the next couple of years that we've been able to tackle 1 year of this 3-year journey with the professional learning communities, which you are all able to see in the schools and witness that. It's also the place where projects like the Wellbeing Project live. the work that Dr. Gordon and Ron have been so intimately involved in with our community and gang awareness and understanding what the increase in gangs and activity has for our community. We know that we can do a lot for our students in the school district, but we also know that if we have really beneficial and influential partnerships with our community, we can do even more. So if we look under the first one, the first action step is how our staff and our leadership teaming and collaboration, how we all work together. And so if you extrapolate that out a little bit, the district leadership piece is ensuring a guaranteed and viable curriculum. The building piece is monitoring, collecting, and sharing evidence of student learning. And then the staff piece would be partnering in collaborative teams to take collective responsibility for student learning. All right, and the third priority, opportunities. Equitable access to high quality academic, extracurricular, and real world experiences. So building our collective knowledge and growth here. The first action step is building the skills and knowledge of our staff in diversity, equity, and inclusion. The next action step is building the skills and knowledge of our staff in math and literacy. And if we were to unpack that, if you look at the technical document, from the district perspective, we would have monitoring and teaching of standards-based high quality literacy and math instruction. From the building perspective would be gather instructional data and feedback. And then from the staff perspective would be plan and implement grade level and beyond instruction. I messed that up, didn't I? Oh no, I got it. Okay. Yeah, so those conclude the three priorities and our discussion of what is in the technical document in those 3 pages, 3, 4, and 5. And the next slide kind of talks about the working of the plan. So just a reminder that this is, as Paul stated, a 5-year plan starting this August. What is great about the plan is we're launching it this fall, but a lot of this work is already in motion. We are already passionately involved with the plan. We all have pieces that we take care of individually, but we're also working as a team on a lot of these pieces. And then the school improvement plans will align with the strategic plan and the Big 6 student outcomes. So we see that as kind of a top-down process where the strategic plan guides the work. The school building plans then will relate to the strategic plan, and then teachers' student growth goals will relate to those building plans as well. So it's a whole top-down, down-up process. Yes, and the sample work plans in motion, Diana?
So as you saw the technical plan, there's a lot in there. There's a lot in that plan, and one could assume that we're trying to accomplish all of it right now. We're not. So as a cabinet has each cabinet member is a champion for different areas. And what we worked on is each cabinet member has selected 2 areas that they're focused on. They're highly focused on. And then as cabinet on a regular basis, we review those as a team. Where are we at? Where are we going? How's the hiring process working? And then Kelly talks to us about what's happening with some of our classified staff members who are literally being hired into certified positions because we're putting them in good positions to do that work and making sure that it's a more diverse workforce for our students, because there's research behind that. When any student sees students who or staff, adults who look like them, sound like them, they are more able to belong and be connected within their school environment. So we're working our plans all the time, but from learning and teaching, you heard the work we're doing there around the PLCs, the math work, the math research that is coming to a head, and that will be in full swing next year from our technology team, continuing to make sure that we have just high functioning technology throughout this district. So again, our students are able to access, but also our staff have that ability to utilize the technology in an effective way. Communications department, you've seen this in action already, where we're trying to ensure that all of our district communication is in English and Spanish, but also all signage is in English and Spanish. It goes back to those thriving environments and making sure our community, our students, our staff feel like they belong. And as Mike read earlier, people are always looking for cues. They're always looking for signals to say, do I belong here? And then there are little things like our sign out here on this front door in English and Spanish, welcoming families in here by hiring a bilingual front office, Fidelina, to seeing those pieces from one of our principals, Pete Jelsing over at the Tech Center, recognizing when he hired a more diverse workforce in the front office. It was interesting to see how many more people were starting to come into the main office, how many more people were engaged in the registration process. So we're seeing these tangible pieces of our action plan, of our strategic plan being implemented and impacting students throughout this district. To our finance team, again, making sure that we're spending the right dollars in the right area within the strategic plan. That is huge. Because as board members know, yeah, we could spend money on a lot of different things, but what we're really trying to hone into, and I know the board will hold everyone accountable to this, how does it align to the strategic plan? How does it align to the promise statement? Jeanette's already picked up that mantra from you. So she's already asking those questions and really pushing that work on a regular basis. How are we going to get there? How do we ensure this work happens on a regular basis? So it's collectively the superintendent from the equity work that we're doing. That's an area that I champion on a regular basis. So all of us collectively have a stake in this. But to be clear, what we said were 2 items. We're not doing everything, but we're highly focused on the areas we're working it. We always talk about this, work the plan, work the plan. That's what we're doing. We're working the plan each and every day. We're staying in our lanes. We're doing the good work. We're seeing evidence already that this strategic plan will make a significant difference in the lives of our students. With that, I'm gonna pause here because I think it would be better to take the strategic plan questions and then break it from the branding questions. So did we just wow you and you're like, no, we're good. No questions there other than what an amazing team over here. Board?
I'm in that Paul's bait camp of, yep, you are amazing. Now we all need to help you do the work. But other people may have something a lot more substantial to say.
We'll take those all the time.
I guess my only question is, we talked a little bit at the outset about how do we fine tune it as we go along, and what do those timelines and things look like?
Yeah, that's right through the cabinet work plans. When we're seeing areas where we're not making a huge dent, that's where the team comes back to the board and saying, here are the adjustments we're making. When we're looking at data, like Mike was talking about around the big 6, why aren't we seeing movement in these areas? So it's going to be data focused. It's in the buildings. It's understanding the work, and each cabinet member leading those areas to say, superintendent, this is where we're at here. This is what we're doing. So it's following, again, goofy saying, but we're working this plan. So we know what's working and what's not. And when there are issues, we bring those forward.
I'm very impressed and happy that we have this plan in place, and I think it sets us up for a success in our upcoming transition. And it also speaks back to the earlier question about why, we have goals in place when we're changing over from an interim to a permanent, superintendent, because it's related to what we have before us in the future, and also the work that the team is doing and the results that we're achieving, so that we do have a comprehensive, step forward each and every day. And that has been missing in our district for a couple of years now. And, COVID threw us all for a loop. So I am just really pleased to have this quality work in writing before us, and good work, everyone.
Thank you, Laura. I
Yep.
appreciate it.
Well, it's no secret that I am a big supporter of this. And I will say it again, you know, I feel like we have something that really addresses the needs of all of our students in our district, regardless of their race, demographic, the socioeconomic status, their identity. This is it for our district. And I'm really pleased to see that it has been elaborated into within our priorities. There's more meat to it. So this is really exciting, and you know, I'm looking forward. I'm looking at you guys, you know, as we start up the new school year, the 22-23 school year, you know, to really put this out there and make it, making these 3 priorities is the forefront of everything that we do. So, thank you.
All right, with no other comments then, I'll finish with this. Been doing this work for a long time. I am more proud of this work, the team, educators throughout this district, community members, students who had a voice in this and who lifted this up, who helped us with this promise statement. I am incredibly proud of this work, but I'm even more, not even hopeful. I know this is going to change kids' lives. I know it is, because it's founded in the research that Mike talked about. This is not just this feels good. This is not a lot of flash. This is not the flashiest plan ever. This is about ensuring that each of our kids, as you talked about, Maria, this is about all of our kids. Each kid in this district for years to come will have even greater opportunities and success. But I want to say thank you to this team as they put up with me throughout this entire process, and Diana and Kim just being right alongside this whole journey, which was incredibly challenging, as you pointed out, trying to do this. When we talk about this, I had the great opportunity to present at a superintendent conference up in Chelan as one of the area get-togethers for superintendents. People were blown away that we did this through a pandemic, let alone implement structured literacy and continuing to move the organization forward, because it was them who moved this forward. So just super proud of the staff, my team, and others. So with that, with done gushing on my team, I'll hand it over to the amazing Diana Haglund.
There we go. Thanks, Ron. Can you skip back a slide, please, to the timeline? So first of all, I want to thank Paul for his leadership through the strategic planning process, which started in earnest on July 1 when he was on the ground with listening and learning and spending a lot of time just hearing people, hearing folks, talking with students, community members, parents. That was really the beginning, and really has transitioned throughout his tenure with us. And this plan wouldn't be possible without his leadership and drive to make it happen. So I want to publicly acknowledge that. We're in what we would call a soft launch phase, where we're sharing this, with the board. Here's our final plan, but we're beginning to roll this out to our staff. So later this week, we'll be sending out a launch email, really meant to just give our staff a preview of what's ahead in the fall. They're looking to the end of the school year. We're in the middle of state testing right now. There's a lot going on teachers' plates. So we acknowledge that and we honor that, but we want to make sure that they know what's ahead, and we give them an opportunity to look through the book and absorb a little bit of the strategic plan that's ahead of us, that we'll kick off on August 24th of 2022, which is our opening day. So we'll be sending that out later this week, just to give them that preview and get them excited about the path forward, but soft touch. So that's going to be happening here in the next couple of days. Our opening day is August 24th. This is hopefully, if all things work out well, a return to a Wenatchee School District tradition of bringing all of our staff back to Wenatchee High School for an opportunity not only to reconnect after summer, to recharge our energy, but also to launch our new plan, to introduce that new plan. What is that going to look like? And also to launch our new brand, which is the next part of our presentation. But this is going back to a time when we could get together, and there's a lot of energy in the room and enthusiasm and momentum moving forward. And it's the ideal time in which to officially start the clock and launch out that new plan. As was alluded to throughout the presentation, this is a 5-year plan, and we really want to emphasize that we don't want our staff or even ourselves to get too caught up in what needs to be done, knowing that if we establish a consistent cadence and set goals, that we will achieve our promise, we will make that happen. We will keep our strategic planning website up to date. It's posted there here on the slide, and we'll be continuing to direct people back to the strategic plan website, not only for updates on how we're doing with our goal setting, are we achieving what we set out to do, but to also share areas where we're experiencing challenges. We're going to run into challenges. I would like to say that this is going to be easy, but it's not. And we commit to being transparent with our communication to our public, to our staff, and all of our different stakeholders about what that looks like. And one of the new things that we'll begin to do is on an annual basis, we will publish an annual report that'll focus on the Big Six. How are we doing? What are we doing? So it's an easy to follow, like Mike said, how are we doing with our vital signs, and really making sure that our community and stakeholders can follow along with our progress. So that's something that would happen on a calendar year. So in January, you would see that annual report come out, and that's where the data is going to be and the report out of how we're doing. But that's the timeline. So get ready for August. It's going to be an exciting opportunity to come back together and really begin to live the plan. But moving on to living the brand, because these two things go hand in hand. Ron, if you want to transition to the next slide. We were in a really unique space to be able to, not only go through the process of strategic planning, which is a really deep retrospective look at oneself to determine, what our goals and objectives for the future are going to be, begin visioning about that path forward. But we were able to begin our process of evaluating ourselves and looking at ourselves from the lens of a brand. It's been over 2 decades since the Wenatchee School District has had a new logo or had a brand. And it was an opportunity for us to demonstrate how we have grown and changed, how our community has grown and changed. And we set out on this process really with the intent that we would develop a brand that reflected our promise, so our promise that's on the wall, and that really represented the foundation that we were working to build, and that it represented our students and their path to become future ready, and that people could see themselves in the brand, that they could feel proud of that, and that they could truly connect and see themselves in that brand or different aspects of it. Next slide. So what's in a brand? Most people, when you think of a brand, you think of a logo. I'm sure there's a million logos you can think of, the Nike swoosh, the Pepsi, Coke, those are typical ones, that McDonald's, but there's more to it than just a logo. Branding is about a core identity. It's who you are, how you talk about yourselves, what words you use. There is a visual system that goes with that. And of course there's a logo, but there's a color palette. How does it make you feel? What are some of the key messages? What is the value proposition? What do people feel and think about you? Are all mandatory aspects of a brand. So this is our brand. Why it matters. Why does it matter that we have a brand? We're a school district, right? So, we're not a big Fortune 500 company. We're not selling a product, but we're impacting the lives of thousands of students, and we're an essential piece of this community. Why it matters is that we believe every one of our students has limitless potential, and they deserve an education that's going to help them achieve that potential, whatever that academic or career goal may be. That is our goal, and that's what we believe. And that's why we're working hard to make sure that Wenatchee School District is a place where our students can see themselves, they know they belong, they're connected, they're seen, and they're valued. So just like we have a promise through our strategic plan, our brand also makes a promise. And our promise is that the Wenatchee School District students, teachers, and staff reflect the diversity and richness of Wenatchee through high quality instruction, social emotional support, and career connected learning. We're helping each and every student achieve success and tap into their limitless potential. This is the elevator speech. This is the tweet. So when someone says, well, what's Wenatchee School District all about? This is what Wenatchee School District is all about. So along with the brand comes the logo, and this is the zhuzhy exciting part that people like to connect with. And a visual identifier is powerful. Without the words, your goal with a strong brand is that people can look at that icon or that symbol and know that that's you, and that it evokes some feeling and emotion. Our logo is designed as a letter mark. With the bold, solid lines of a W providing a strong foundation for colorful lines to emerge. So you can probably hear some aspects of our strategic plan in that. Wenatchee School District provides a strong foundation from which our students can emerge future ready. Each line, like each WSD student, follows its own unique path. The lines have a common starting point, which is our classrooms, it's our teachers, it's our staff, but there's no fixed end. It symbolizes limitless potential of each student, and the unique path, the undulating lines, are a unique path that our students are going to take in their lives. Taken as a whole, the lines resemble a flag in the breeze, representing Wenatchee School District's resolve and leadership in education, and serving as a rallying point. Wenatchee School District has never been afraid to take risks. We've always been a leader in this valley, and we will always continue to be a leader in this community. The warm and cool tones of the lines also recall our rolling foothills. I keep saying in this building, I wish we had larger windows over here, because we have such an incredible view of Wenatchee's foothills and the beauty that is our local community. But you can recall the rolling hills, so you can see the topographic lines. You can see the foothills in the wave, in the movement of that rallying point of that flag of the W. But it also represents the rivers, which are key to us, and then the sunsets. I dare you tonight when you go home, or any day, look at the sunset and you will see those colors. The blue at the top represents the sky with the river down below, kind of balancing out, and then those beautiful sunset colors in the hills of Wenatchee. Not only do they represent the land, but they represent the culture and vibrancy of our community, as well as the energy and our promise. And that's what our logo is all about. So just some sample variations. We're going to get a little more into the technical stuff, which is where I love to spend time. But you can just see some examples of how our logo can be presented and used in different ways. But our color palette is very vibrant. We have key lime, and we've got some kind of a lighter sagey greens, which recall a lot of the plants and flora and fauna here in our community. There's still a hint of purple in there, which is familiar to people, but differentiated from Wenatchee High School. There's the richness of wine in the colors. So you'll see a lot of those things as you kind of reflect on it and drive around our community and just live and be here. You'll see those colors in lots of different areas. So right now we're in the process of transitioning all of our existing brand collateral into our new brand. So you can see some samples of our business cards and letterhead that will start to come out as we need to order new things. They will all leverage the new brand. We're working diligently with our tech department to make sure that we can transition quickly. A lot of our digital resources, desktop backgrounds, Zoom backgrounds, those types of things. And Ron's been a great partner in working to make that happen. Just some other examples of envelopes and backgrounds. You can see some of the patterns and textures that come with the logo. Again, those undulating lines, those topographic lines represented there. You all have a lanyard that was given to you today. We handed these out to our staff, and we'll also be providing a version of these to our staff on opening day. So everybody gets a little bit of swag so that they can really become brand ambassadors and truly live the brand and live the promise with us. And you'll see on this screen just a snapshot of the website. That's another piece we're doing on the back end, is a complete overhaul of our website. So we're cleaning things up, simplifying things so that it does carry in a lot of the textures and simplicity that is the new brand, but really is who we want to be, so that we're communicating, clearly with our different audiences, and they can easily find information. So we're working to simplify our website and make it a little more of a user-friendly mobile experience. So that's something that will also transition later this summer as we get closer to the start of school in August. So our brand launch timeline, I've talked a little bit about this, but right now between May and August, we're really in that collateral transition phase. One significant change that you'll see here at the district office, or actually several, is we will be removing our exterior sign and adding a street sign located just on the west side of the building, so that it's easier to identify what this building is and who works here and what we do. That will be in dual language. So we're excited to have that out at the end of the month. We'll also be installing flag banners on all of our light poles that say welcome in English and Spanish, using our brand colors and logos. We're also going to be doing some other interior work as well, with some murals and different things that really truly represent the brand and that make people feel welcome in this space, and that brings the beauty of outdoors in, but people can feel welcome in the space and it feels a little less institutional. We'll be working on some staff swag, so shirts, the website I already touched on, but I think exterior signage will be one of the big wows that you'll see here later this month. And our official launch for the new brand is going to be August 24th. So that's really a big day for us, where we will officially introduce this to our staff and really help them get excited about the new brand for Wenatchee School District, about who we are and how we are emerging, not only with a new plan, but with a new identity, and looking forward to helping our staff become brand ambassadors for Wenatchee School District. And that also means you, board, as well, because this is your brand, and I'm excited to introduce it to you officially at this point. And again, you're going to be seeing more and more of it. So that's what we've got for you tonight. Any questions related to branding that I can answer?
I was just wondering, Laura, I think Laura and Martin both served on the branding group committee. What was the reception from the other people in the group?
Go.
I was surprised at the end at the near unanimity of where we got to. And I want to actually be a little bit frivolous. Balsam root behind everything. We looked at rivers and mountains and rocks, but nobody showed spring flowers to us. Where's the lupin, which is close enough to the old purple that lots of people wear? Anyway, but back to more seriously. Yes, it was very interesting to see how people converged and the energy that logo displays, I think, and kind of a hopeful logo. I think, I don't know what you said, I was surprised.
I think it was a good process. It was an iterative process, so that, we didn't get presented with these grand ideas that everybody jumped on all at once. It was kind of like, well, I like this about it, I like that about it, so it evolved. And it changes hard for everybody, and even me was like, I don't know, I kind of like the pen, and but in the end, I feel like the presentation of the logo is really nice and professional and fresh, and it matches up with the introduction of our strategic plan. It makes sense to go into this new phase with a new look, and I think good job, Diana, in presenting this tonight. Thank you so much. And yeah, So it was an interesting process. It just, everyone wasn't rah, rah, rah the whole time, but I think in the end, the product that evolved is as it should be.
And I think the new part that comes out today that was not that part of the logo was interpreting the logo related to the strategic plan. And I think that's whoever contributed to that, I think that's a good thing.
Thank you.
I guess I have one other thing that we see the variation in the colors, and Diana showed that at the end. There's a district, there are different schools. The schools have their emblems, they have the colors. One of the characteristics, I think, of the artwork, which I think was superbly done by the firm in Spokane, is it is very adaptable to different colors for different institutions, and even solid versus see-through. So I think as we go in the future, different parts of the district are going to be able to use this as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's correct. So we will have different word marks for our operational departments. So everyone will have the same symbol, but they will have it. The word mark will say Wenatchee School District Nutritional Services. So we will be unified in that we have a district logo that can be used unilaterally by all departments, so that we have a strong identity there and not multiple logos for different operational divisions. It is my long-term goal, and I won't say when that will occur, but to work on rebranding with some of our schools, starting with our elementary, more of what I would call a facelift. For the sense that we have some artwork that needs to be refreshed, and just to help them kind of refresh that identity and have a working logo that can be used across multiple platforms, whether that's t-shirts they're designing or other things. So that'll be something in the branding space that I'll begin to work on, but that's a significant project, but one I'll keep chipping away at, because there's a significant need for that at the building level as well. So.
Little nip and tuck.
That's right.
Nip and tuck there. Yeah. You're just gonna lean into what Laura was saying. Just Diana, for championing this work, for lifting this work up from the first time all the way through. And it was a heavy lift to do this work. Laura is also right on the iterative process. This wasn't like, oh wow, we're good. It really was. But Diana lifted this process all the way through, kind of dragging me alongside, but it really was her who lifted it up and made it what it is today. And I'm incredibly proud of the logo, of the promise statement, of what it means. And Martin, I agree with you. The logo exemplifies the promise statement in many ways. So thank you for everybody who participated. Martin, Laura, thank you very much.
I just want to say, Diana, that was an outstanding presentation and explanation of it, because quite honestly, when I first looked at this, I thought shipping logistics company, and I was confused as to how it really worked and wasn't sure I loved it. I like some of the color schemes. Some of the others feel a little like brand identity crisis when I think of Eastmont across the river and we're using a lot of red. But the explanation you just gave, I can see it, I can get behind it, and I like it so much better. So I really appreciate your work on that. I think you did an outstanding job.
Okay, as I said, that was excellent all around, and glad of the presentations. The next item is an action item. At our last meeting, the board took two approvals. One, to take action, move forward with the division of the school district into director districts, and then to propose the districting plan, which includes 4 director districts and 1 at-large position. So in front of us today, let me get my right, we would have resolution number 0422, which would be of the board of the district to direct the superintendent to advertise and communicate the proposed districting plan to the district residents, and to schedule a public hearing regarding the proposed districting plan. I briefly go through, this is a process where that would be put out for public notice. There would be an opportunity for public comment. There would be subsequent meetings and a timetable to complete the redistricting in time for, I believe it was about an 8-month requirement to complete this, which was per our legal counsel's advice. So that is the background to the motion we have in front of us. Do I have anyone who wishes to propose that motion?
Move to approve resolution number 04-22, directing the superintendent to advertise and communicate the proposed district plan to the district residents and to schedule a public hearing regarding the proposed districting plan as set forth in the resolution.
Thank you, Julie. And do we have a second for that motion?
I second that.
Thank you, Laura. We have a proposal and a second, and it is now open for discussion. Is there any discussion? Failing that, I then will then ask all board members who are in favor of this motion to signify by saying aye. Aye. The resolution is passed unanimously. Thank you very much. We will move to the next stage of redistricting. And we now go to board communication.
I just want to say thank you to our teachers and staff. It's SBA testing week, and thank you to all the parents that provide snacks for the week. Let's see here. Catherine and I had the pleasure of going to Wenatchee High School to look at PLCs in the Algebra 1 team. Great work. And I was very impressed by the team, but I also was very pleased to see that Krista Casiato was there, who is working with that partnership. She is a math expert. And so the fact that we're able to contract through a grant to have her support our math teams is great. So hopefully we can continue that partnership and find some money somewhere. Sorry. I will be attending the gang awareness meeting tomorrow. So I don't, just putting it out there. I mean,
I think that's one that we can all independently attend. Yeah. Yeah.
We can,
Right.
okay, good.
All right.
I'm planning to go
Yeah.
as well.
No, I think as an aside, I congratulate the people who've got together to try and work for our whole community in this.
And then lastly, I wanted to kind of just base on the diversity and inclusion training most of us went to last week. It was provided by WASDA, hosted by the ESD, and that was in compliance to Senate Bill 5044. I thought it was good. It was a good introduction. It was also this week has kind of been a reminder why it's we can't just stop there. We need to continue growing in that respect. And the strategic plan, seeing that presentation and the equity program review and how things have transpired, it's really made me think about, where we are as a community, how we're servicing our students, and what was the intent between that social media post in regards to the equity survey, right? I don't know, but I can only assume that from my lens, was it an attempt to sabotage the data? Was it something that this person doesn't believe in to, skew the data one way or another? And it was just a reminder that, we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do as a community, as a school district. Because again, from my perspective, that is, from my lens, that is what I'm seeing. And we have to just kind of remember, this is, whether we agree with it or not, this is about students, and it's not just about race. There's so many other different factors that go into this. So again, I just want to thank WASDA for providing that training. I hope as a board and as a community and as a district, we aren't just attending a training and saying, okay, we've complied for the next 2 years. I'll attend the second training in 2 more. So, it's just been very eye-opening. And again, we need to remember we're here for our students to serve, and that promise statement says it all.
Just really quickly want to remind us all that we got notice from Lincoln Elementary about their little carnival night fundraiser on Friday night. So if anyone's wants to attend their first, it sounds like their first in-person big event in 2 years. That would be a good one.
I'll echo Maria's thoughts on our PLC visit and for algebra. It's interesting as we've gone along, and we kind of talked about this for a few minutes after, the different levels of PLCs that are going on in our different schools, and who's been doing them longer and seeing, you know, a little more cohesiveness and success. But it's been very, very good to go in and see these, and I appreciate that the staff and the teachers letting us come in and hear, you know, what would normally not be, we would not be privy to. I have a few things coming up. I'm going to the Valley Tech Center on Friday. My first visit, I wasn't able to visit as many classrooms as I wanted to, so I'll be going back to that. Then doing a visit with the Wenatchee, the Internet Academy. And yeah, I won't be visiting, I'll be zooming in on that because that's in the Internet Academy. So looking forward to that and seeing what they're doing, because I haven't had an opportunity with that yet. But and then again, the equity training, we did that. That was it was enlightening, and just I'm sorry I did not comment on the presentation because it was just overwhelming, and I know that because I'm overwhelmed. I was not expecting this, and I'm kind of trying to really take it all in. It's a lot to see in this presentation. It's clearly something that you guys have been working on for a very long time, and it's kind of you know, it's building in my mind kind of the visual or the picture of our mission statement, our strategic plan. So as somebody who would be kind of a member of the public hearing all of this for the first time, I wasn't involved in any part of this. It was before my time. So it's a lot to take in. It's a lot to kind of wrap your head around, and I look forward to the public hearing about it and getting their input. But I thank you. I can see that it has been a lot of work. It gives an organized kind of picture in my mind of how we'll move forward. And I appreciate that. That's kind of how my brain works, and so I appreciate that. Thank you.
So I wanted to comment about the equity training as well. I wish I had my notes from that evening, but I found it to be very enlightening. It was an enjoyable experience. I wasn't quite sure what to expect, but I was pleasantly surprised. And one of the things that's sticking with my mind is that the components of diversity are not related only to race, but also to, you know, social status, socioeconomic status, and cultural differences. And the presenters used different a style of interacting with people at our tables and asking us to identify times when we personally felt a sense of belonging, and then also to contrast that with this time when we felt like we didn't belong, and to help make those experiences or those feelings be more relatable. And I felt like that was really valuable, because my belonging and not belonging, you know, there were several, but one of them had nothing to do with race. It had to do with bicycling, which is just odd and weird. But you know, the feeling of being an outsider was truly there, and looking for those opportunities to confirm whether or not I belonged. And I certainly did not in one of the instances, but in another I did. So that is just a random thought from that. As I said, I wish I had my notes, but I felt like it was a good opportunity. I would definitely go to the next one if there was an add-on to this one, because I think if other people were involved in it, what they discover is it's not what you might think it is.
Thanks, Laura. I was sent to school on Teacher Appreciation Week, and the way I want to put it is they sent you to school and said, it's not 1 week a year, it's the whole year. So thank you, teachers, for that lesson, well, on behalf of them. One of the most exhilarating things that you can go to in the school district is go to the twice a year, or if there's a summer one as well, the parent advisory committees, bilingual and migrant student events. And they bring in all sorts of community organizations related to after school, during school reinforcement of family life, as well as having academic presentations and a theme. And it's a lot of fun. And to be there, and Corey, you were there too. And I just want to say that it was very rewarding to be there. And the two school resource officers were there and were a major part of the presentation. And it was very good to see them reaching out to a community and being accepted and being responsive. And that was very good. And on the kind of less comfortable side, they put up a room that was an exhibit of a troubled student's bedroom mess with various drug and other addiction paraphernalia in. It's an tough education lesson. So a lot goes on, put on by the school district to help the community. And so that happened recently too. Related to that, I'm sorry I can't go to Lincoln. I would love to go there, but also a first time ever since I've been on the state advisory committee for bilingual education, they're going to have their conference in person in Sunnyside this weekend. So I will be there for that. And then I want to talk about student achievement and celebrate that a little bit. And I want to begin by saying most students achieve remarkable things under the radar. We don't even know about it. And we've got to remember how excellent they are. And the last couple of weeks, I've read several things that are a little bit out of the ordinary. Just they show how wide the range of Wenatchee School District student achievements is. From West Side, there was a wellness project of videos aimed to help fellow students to healthy outcomes. From the Tech Center, a Future Tech Award finalist with superlative collision repair and personal achievements. From high school, the Color Guard attributing team bonding to the way they overcame obstacles to their best season and their highest ever score. And also at the high school, a Presidential Scholars Program finalist. I deliberately left all the names out because I want to say that there are lots and lots of students who don't get the names. The names of these students were in the district publications, so they got their credit. But I think this is a celebration of the extremely wide range of not always noticed students we have in this district. So that's my board communication.
Board outstanding communications tonight. Wow. Might well just be short and sweet, as it's been highlighted a number of times. Tomorrow night, we're going to have a community conversation around gang awareness. It'll be here at the district office at 6 p.m. So please come in. We're excited to present this, as Corey spoke about a little bit earlier. The partnership with Ron and countless other community organizations have come together to make tomorrow night a really important evening for us, a first step to helping raise awareness within our community, what's occurring on a day-to-day basis around gangs. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. That was a weighty meeting, and we have a huge amount of work to do in front of us. So I take a deep breath, and I want to, in advance, express the board's appreciation of all of the multiple projects, programs, efforts that are going on in the Wenatchee School District. And at that point, adjourn the meeting. Thank you.